Good morning. Welcome back to The Leftovers. We're so excited to be with you. I am your host, Pastor Patty Cakes. This is my other host, Chocolate Patty Cakes.
That's right, man.
Yeah, how you
100%.
doing?
Can that be your new title, though? Pastor Patty Cakes.
I like that.
Pastor Patty Cakes.
I don't know how much respect I'll get from the youth students.
That's right, yeah.
But the children might like it.
So maybe they'll just stay away from that.
Yeah,
Okay.
my bad.
Sounds good.
I'm Pastor Carl. So excited to be with you on this episode of The Leftovers, the podcast you come to when you're hungry for more from Sunday's sermon.
That's right.
Because this sermon series has been really,
I like that.
it's been good. This sermon series has been the unseen battle, the spiritual realm. And first, let me start by saying that I really do love this series, and I loved this last message because, especially within the charismatic circle, there are a lot of people who tend to over spiritualize every battle that they face.
Man, what are you talking about?
So they stub.
We don't do that, bro.
They stub their toe and
man.
they blame Satan for putting the chair there. That's what I'm saying. And that's frustrating for me because, and then on the other end of it, the secular side of things, the non-denominational Christian has a tendency, I think, to just there is no enemy of your soul. Everything is just a product of coincidence or just life and the way that it is. And either way, there is an actual reality somewhere in between those two things. And so the reason I appreciate messages like this is because I think as an average disciple, we need to have an accurate picture of what the unseen battle looks like and how it works for us, how we're supposed to fight that battle. If there's something going on, I need to know how to operate.
Right.
But where I struggle with this is for years, I couldn't relate to the motivation of Satan for doing anything that he does. So I love to read, and so all right, best example I can give you is there's like a modern, I can't say that it's modern, but you see it more and more often where like a story will be retold from an enemy's perspective, like the negative charisma. Yeah, and you understand it. You don't necessarily agree with it, but it makes sense. Like there's a subreddit called "The Empire Did Nothing Wrong," and it's all about how the Empire in Star Wars is actually the protagonist, and they're taken down by the rebellion for the wrong reasons.
Wow.
And, like you can get behind the idea. And it helps you understand, and for years I really thought, like, if I could just understand the motivation of Satan, I can understand his strategy for what he does in the life of the believer.
Yeah.
And so, the big takeaway from me from this sermon was that I don't need to understand the enemy's purpose to be subject to his strategy.
That's true. That's good.
Regardless of whether or not we comprehend why he does what he does.
Right.
We are all still subject to the reality, to his strategies in our lives.
Yeah.
And the scriptures are largely silent on the motivation of Satan. And then think that people who tell you otherwise are pulling from myth or theology that came later, or extrapolating data that isn't necessarily there. But where the scriptures are clear is this Satan's strategy. They're very clear about how he operates in the life of the believer. And I think that was the purpose of this sermon series.
100%, man.
The takeaway from
and I appreciate you saying that, bro, because honestly, yesterday was a little bit of a struggle for me, that message. In the sense that, and I didn't even mention this yesterday, but even in the sense of, and I know it's not your typical message, that brings peace, joy, hope, comfort, like all those other things. Like this was like a make you uncomfortable type message. In fact, I think a couple of times, if you go back and watch it, I think a couple of times that I had to say to the congregation, like, y'all quiet out there. You know what I mean? Like just very, you could just hear a pin drop, and which is not typical. And then so I think, I really appreciate you saying that, because it was a struggle for me, just in my own mind, like how is this going to be received? But at the same time, I also said, it's not one of those typical messages, but man, like I really feel like it's a needed message that we need to be aware. So I appreciate you.
I wouldn't say that it was hopeless or like it was scary.
Sure.
But I feel like, if anything, knowledge of what's going on helps better prepare and equip you for what's at play. And we weren't left unprepared either. All authority under heaven was given to us to make the enemy subject to us, and all authority has been removed from him. We're to trample him underfoot. The scriptures are really clear about the commandments that we have regarding the spiritual battle. So while scary, yes, really helpful also, and hopeful. Good. I like having a plan. Plans make me feel calm. Thank you for that.
That's good.
It's good. So I have some questions though on the content itself.
Okay.
You opened with Jesus stepping off the boat and being rushed.
Mm-hmm.
Was your point that was your point that the enemy attacked Jesus, or that the demon-possessed man was drawn towards Jesus instinctively? They're totally different readings of that moment, worth unpacking.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's a great question, because like it's even one of those things where, like, as I read it, I'm like, man, like, what's going on here? What's the motivation behind this? And so this is me and my speculation, but I honestly believe like it was both. It changed. So it's kind of like when my kids were younger. You know, maybe other people's kids are perfect, but my kids sometimes had problems with like hitting, you know, each other, going at other people. And then so I remember one time that my daughter, when she was young, my oldest daughter, when she was younger, she put her hand back like this to go hit somebody. And then as soon as she saw it, Alyssa goes, "Sophie," and Alyssa goes, and then Sophie goes, "No, Mom, I was just trying to be nice." And then she changed it like right there. You know what I mean? And I've seen that play out with like my kids. No, I'm not gonna tell. I mean, obviously when they're younger, but like I saw the thing go back, and Alyssa goes, "Sophie," and then like she just changed her demeanor. And I honestly wonder like if it was one of those things.
Sure.
Where the demoniac sees and then he rushes, but then if in the text it says that when the demoniac speaks, you know, "I beg you, like, what have we to do with you?" Because at this time Jesus had already commanded him to go out.
Right.
So I wonder that as he rushed, if Jesus had already said to him, you know what I mean, like, "Be still," or "Hold on."
Sure.
Right? And then after that, I feel like from there, it was the sense of like Jesus brought deliverance to this man.
Yeah.
So I honestly believe, again, my speculation is I honestly believe that, man, it started out with the demoniac thinking, man, I can catch him at this opportune time.
When he's vulnerable.
Tired, just coming out of the lake. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Oof. I want to unpack that, but
have you ever experienced that before though? Like, have you ever?
I've been on the yelling end of that, like where I've been told, and then I quickly changed.
You change it around, just hanging out,
shooting breeze, 100%. So no, that makes sense. And I could see the enemy of your soul doing something like that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
You brought up hard right. You brought up the 3 doors that the enemy uses.
3 common doors. I said, yeah.
Denial, sin, and agreement. You know, I was going to ask you, like, I don't think this is a relevant question now, but I was going to ask you where you think the congregation struggles the most with this, or where you think you struggle the most with this. But I feel like any given season, it's just dependent on
anyone.
Yeah. So if the enemy looks for a vulnerability for you, what are you most likely to accept at any given point in time? And so, and this just fluctuates with the season. It does. So,
100%. I will say though that out of the 3 that we talked about, denial, sin, and agreement, I think sin is the most obvious one. But then I think that, man, the devil, he loves working in the secret denial.
Sure.
But then also we don't realize the power of agreement that we have.
Oh, for sure.
And I really think, bro, like that's where a lot of doors are opened up in the family.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest way. Is that when we start agreeing with thoughts about our spouse or thoughts about our kids, our family, I think that's the biggest way we open up doors for the enemy to get in.
Yeah, it's so subtle too.
Yeah, really subtle.
I brought this up to the youth students yesterday when we did the breakfast club for the student leaders, and I had told them the story about how when I was a kid, we had this mouse trap at the bottom of the steps. I didn't know what it was. I was only like 4 or 12, and I asked about it, and they said, "Don't touch that." And the thought never even occurred to me to touch it until someone specifically said, "Don't touch that."
Yeah.
And so I did what came naturally for every 4 or 12-year-old kid, which is that, you know, when no one was looking, I put my finger in there.
100%, yeah.
And it hurt, and I knew I was going to get in trouble, so I had to like hide the pain.
Yeah.
And I told the students that like nothing is more dangerous than like being curious and alone. And I think that the enemy knows this about you is because he, you know, when he comes and he speaks with you, he doesn't get you to you know, when he's trying to get you to deny or to sin or to be in agreement with him, he never tries to present an argument to you in such a way where it's very easy for you to get defensive, because that's like a hardwired mechanism. The Lord put that in you for a reason. It's to be like, no, back off. Is that he tries to do it in such a way that he very subtly gets you to question.
Yeah.
You know, when he did with Eve.
100%.
Did God really say?
Yeah.
And she didn't get defensive.
Yeah.
She answered his question, but he opened it up for her to ask herself.
Yeah.
What did he really mean? Am I not made in the image of God, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
And so,
It's actually really interesting that you say that, though.
yeah.
Because that was one of like the things I omitted from the text yesterday.
Oh man,
Yeah.
that would have been powerful.
Yeah, I omitted
Okay.
that. So like it goes along with the theme of denial.
Yes.
Because again, we said that the devil loves secrecy. He loves to catch us when our guard is down,
Yes.
denying that there's an enemy out there. And then so I actually just in my notes, I studied, but I cut it out because I thought, man, there's just so much. I want to keep it simple. But in my notes, I originally had Genesis chapter 2, Genesis chapter 3 in there, where when God creates Adam and Eve, right?
Yeah.
Genesis chapter 2, he gives Adam the man this commandment. He said, like watch over the garden,
Right.
tend it. And then so when you translate the Hebrew, it's the word shamar, which means like to guard, like to protect. And it has like the feel of like as the watchman of the tower, always
Okay.
looking out for danger.
Yeah.
The implication is that God is saying, you have an enemy out there. I need you to watch out for him. Right? This is in the middle of creation. God says, Shamar, watch over it. You have an enemy that wants to attack you. I need you to watch out for it.
Okay.
So that's Genesis chapter 2. He gets that command. Genesis chapter 3 comes along and it says the serpent comes along, right? And it says that, that he went and approached Eve. Did God really say, right? Did God really say? And then I think when we read this text, I think oftentimes as men, right, we get the sense of like, oh man, well, if Adam were there, right? If Adam were
Yeah.
there, man, he would have done something about this.
Yeah.
Oh
But he
man,
was.
yeah. He tricked Eve. He didn't trick the man.
Right.
But what does that say though? The woman tricked the man, right? But anyway, and it's so funny too, because Alyssa was reading this thing, bro, like the other day, and then this thing said that, man, I forget what it was, what article or was it a sermon she was listening to, but this guy basically said like it took like the shrewdest animal and like the cunningness of the enemy
Yeah.
to deceive the woman,
Yeah.
and all it took to deceive the man was a woman.
Okay.
Isn't that crazy?
Okay.
But anyway, okay,
Yeah.
so going back to it though, like, so we think like, oh, dude, if the man were there, he'd man up.
Yeah.
But he was there.
Right, yeah,
Right?
absolutely.
Genesis 3 says that the woman took of the fruit and then gave to her husband who was with her. Like, that's what the scripture says. And then so like the whole time you're like, bro, like if he was with her, he did nothing to guard.
Right.
He did nothing to protect. Right? That his job was to be on the lookout, to be vigilant. But when the enemy came in, he just let him right in the front door. And then when you see that, what happens? What happens is that they lose their intimacy with the Lord. They end up hiding and separating in shame.
Yeah.
They lose the dream of the Garden of Eden, right? End up being cast out. And then so his whole entire trajectory and destiny was changed because he failed to keep a lookout for an enemy.
Yeah.
And I think it's the same way when we deny, when we fail to keep a lookout for an enemy, man, it costs us something. And then so it's interesting that you brought that up because that's actually what was in my notes, but I just omitted it for the sake of time. But yeah, our job as men, and notice too, both of them ate, but
Yeah.
God held Adam accountable.
Right.
Because he gave Adam the word of watch out and tent.
Right.
Keep out for it. Yeah, keep watch of it.
Why do you think he let that go?
Who?
Adam.
Adam?
Yeah.
I don't know. But all I know is that Adam's what do you call it? Passiveness? Passivity?
Yeah.
I think that passivity, that passiveness, is almost the same temptation I think that most men face today, that passiveness,
Yeah.
that unwillingness to engage. You
So
know what I mean? Engage in parenting, engage in leading, engage in protecting, engage in initiating.
Right.
I think that passiveness is a trait that all of us as men, or I should say most men have today, which is sad.
Right.
But then that's our role though, is not to be passive, but to initiate and to be on the lookout.
would you say that was motivation in your sermon yesterday? Is to get us to go from passive to active concerning our
Passive
battle?
passive to vigilant.
passive to vigilant?
Yeah.
Why vigilant, not active?
I think
Why
it
that
starts
word?
with you being vigilant.
Okay.
I mean, that's what it is. Active is like you're reacting to something, but
Sure.
if you can be vigilant and even watch out for it beforehand, I think that's where it starts.
Yeah.
Yeah, just even being aware of it, I think that's a win.
Yeah, that's good, man.
Yeah.
Agreement feels like the most subtle of the three: denial, agreement, and sin. Can you expand on what agreeing with the enemy actually looks like practically in someone's life,
Yeah.
everyday thought life?
That's really good, man.
Yeah.
That's really good. I feel like that you could even speak a lot to this. I mean, working with young people, teenagers.
You
know?
I did not set this question up for me,
Yeah.
but I think it's Psalms 109, and that's what we talked about again yesterday
Yeah.
in Breakfast Club where David had prayed to God that he would cut off his enemy, that he would destroy his enemy, that his enemy's children would become orphans, that no one would pay any attention to the orphans, that they would be cut off from their that they would be without food, without shelter, without a home, like just really twisted thing to pray for somebody. Like I can't ever imagine my worst enemy praying that their kids would be cut off from their family. Really twisted. But I had this thought some years ago that the enemy, that Satan is the father of lies. And when I don't want to do something, I send my daughter, I send my child. When I don't want to get a cup of water, I say, Millie, go grab me a cup of water. When Satan does not want to do something himself, he sends his children. And this is most often, I think probably the most often way that the enemy works in our lives is that he sends his lies, his children, to do a work in the life of the believer. And this attitude that David has in the Psalm is the same attitude that God instructs us to have towards the lies of the enemy in our life. But without realizing it, we give so many resources to the children of our enemy. Time, thought,
100%.
attention, our attitudes. There's a reason why the scriptures say to keep an attitude of thankfulness at all times. This is the combat to the natural attitude that is brought about by paying attention to the lies of the enemy. That's a really wordy sentence, but you're tracking with me?
Sure.
You give too much thought to those, you give too much resources to those lies, your life becomes them.
100%.
Even when you are actively trying to disagree with them, you will passively drift in the direction of those lies until you can take on like a specific attitude, which the scripture says thankfulness. And so that's a whole nother thing. But, does that answer your question? So agreement, it's like one of those things that you will passively come into agreement by subtly think. If you've ever had a thought, a dangerous thought about changing your life, you are aware as you're thinking it that if I give too much attention to this, I will naturally gravitate towards it. It's just the way that humans are wired.
100%. I think too, like when I think back to when I was youth pastor here, and then the conversation I even had with like one of our girls back then, and this conversation applies to, gosh, like you can just, the principles of it. But I remember one time, like there was a girl in our youth group, and then it came to my attention that she was like posting like these like crazy like photos of herself, like on Facebook. And then I remember me and then another leader like sat down with her. And they were like, why are you doing this? Like, what's going on? And then after that, she admitted, she goes like, I guess I was just wanting attention. Just wanting attention. Number one, her feeling like she's not worthy of attention. And then after that, I asked her, I said, sis, listen. I said, are you a Chevy S10? I said, or are you a classy car? And
then, hold on. I still think the S10's a classy car.
Well, compared to a classy car, Lamborghini doesn't hold any
Sorry,
water.
Go ahead.
But anyway, so I looked at her and I said, are you? And she goes like, what do you mean? And I said, if you look throughout, all the advertisements, right? Back then, Craigslist was a big deal. Auto Trader magazines, all that stuff. I said, you'll see that, man, the things that are being advertised are like these old, like dump trucks. And then I said, but you'll never see a classy car. You'll never see a Lamborghini. And I said, why? Because classy guys know where to get classy cars. And I said, right now you're treating yourself as if you were like an old dump truck. I said, you got to see yourself as a classy car. And then I remember like after that, like she just like her face, like it's just like something that she never thought of before. Because again, it's that power of agreement with how do you view yourself? And that's just one of the ways. Now, I'm not even talking about the way that you view your family. I'm not even talking about the way that you view your spouse. I'm not even talking about the things that you say about your workplace. And then so all of those things, those thoughts that you say, right? And I'll even say this, like in the church, like it's something that even like, it's a calling to ministry. It's a calling that you have. And in the church, you can have one of two attitudes. You can either say, well, here I am. Like, this is my life. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just here 24/7. Or you can have the attitude of, man, this is something I get to do. And this is something, man, I'm called to do. And then even with my kids, I can even, with my kids, it can either be something like, well, got to go back to work, guys, I'm sorry. Or it's something with my kids where, guys, isn't this awesome that God's called us to do this work?
Right.
And then including them in the works of the ministry as well too. So same situation, different perspectives, different things you're speaking into it. One agrees with the enemy, and then the other agrees with the mind of the Lord.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So you can apply that power agreement with anything.
What do you say to the person, this is unscripted, who, again, this is just how Satan works. Like, a lie is 99% the truth. Who comes into an active situation for a believer who's struggling with just anything. I wish that I can give you an example. And he points out the one thing that is weighing heavy on that person's heart.
Yeah.
They don't want to agree with the enemy, but they can't back away from this reality that is at play. How do they combat agreeing with Satan in that situation?
Yeah.
So I mean, attitude, I get that,
Sure,
but
yeah.
what do you tell that person? Is this too subtle of a question?
I think that's a really broad question.
Yeah.
It's a really nebulous one.
You would need to know details.
Yeah, but I think overall arching principle is
Right.
is man, like you've got to know, like you've got to come in and you've
Right.
got to know the heart of God. And I know it sounds so simple, but there are layers, depths of the Lord's heart that He invites us into. That if we would spend the time seeking after it, right? That there are depths of it. And I think a lot of times we settle for this, and God is saying there's so much more.
Right.
Not saying He's withholding from us, but we're just not aware of that. So for example, right, I'll give you this example here. For a really good-hearted believer who struggles with sin, right? They may sin and they may think, man, I am just the worst, and do like, I'm not worthy. And then they'll take the scripture where it says, where Jesus talks about the man who beat his chest, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, man, I'm unworthy, Lord, forgive me, a sinner. And then that's the attitude they'll have for like the next 2 weeks, right? And I'm just so unworthy. But when you think about the Father and how, is that really the way the Father views you?
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because when it came to the prodigal son, that was his attitude of like, man, I'm a servant. Dad, I'm so unworthy. And so he came with a broken and contrite heart. But then the scripture says that when the Father came, dude, he just ignored every single one of those things and said, dude, my son's back.
Yeah.
And then so if you know the Father's heart towards you, you'll know how to view yourself. And at the same time, you'll know how to conduct yourself. And so if he didn't hear the Father, he would have just walked in. And again, he would have been in the house,
Yeah.
but he would have been a slave. But if he would have heard the heart of the Father, man, then he walks in and he owns the place once again.
Okay.
So I think, again, just leaning into the heart of the Lord for that, for how you view it. And I think, man, I think a lot of times, man, God is just this dad, this Abba Father. And again, I'm not trying to give excuse to sin. That's not what I'm trying to do at all. Repent, cut it off. But I think at the same time, man, there's something powerful about knowing how deeply you're loved by God. Because I think sometimes, I look at it like this. When I look at the way my wife loves me, right, and I see it, I look at that and I don't think to myself, wow, my wife really loves me. I can sin and step out of this marriage and she's going to keep on loving me.
Yeah.
That would be the sickest thing I could do. When I view her love for me, it makes me want to be a better man.
Sure.
And then so I think at times, if we can catch how much God loves us, I think that's a better motivator for us to become more sanctified than it is beating our chest and saying, woe is me.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So I think I think a big portion of it has to do with leaning into the heart of God. I think the unfortunate reality is that we live in a world that's so rushed.
Yeah.
And that's so instant gratification.
Yeah.
That we don't take the time just to sit at the Lord's feet and make way and push into that.
What I hear you saying, and the reason I think that this is so difficult for a lot of people, is they try to deny the voice of the enemy without being in agreement with the voice of the Father.
Oh yeah, 100%, bro.
Satan will come and speak with you.
Yeah.
You have to go and listen to the Father.
Yeah, 100%. 100%, yeah. Because then, man, the enemy will try to whisper lies, devalue you, and man, your value isn't based on, your status, what you do, what you don't do. It's based on, man, what the Father says. And yeah, you can't pull the weeds without planting flowers. So.
when you got to the Mark 5 passage, moving on, do you feel like, I mean, our congregation in particular, do you feel like there was a lean into what you were saying, or still a resistance to the idea of a literal enemy?
Dude, that was really hard to gauge.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not gonna lie, like it was really hard to gauge because, again, our people, like, it was just quiet. Normally they're a little bit more emotive, but
Right.
yesterday, man, they were just.
That was the content, 100% the content.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
But I'll say this though, is that afterwards, I got a lot of feedback and like, man, like that was timely.
Sure.
Or I needed that. And then so I think when we started talking about the enemy, I didn't know how it was going to be received.
Sure.
But it's just one of those things where as a leader, even though it's the unknown, you step into, man, I'm just here to obey the Lord and do it with all my heart.
Right.
So I just stepped into that without knowing. But the feedback that I got though was like, man, like they needed to be reminded of that. In fact, this was really cool. I had a congregation member come up to me that he was serving during the first service, but his son was part of the youth group and he was in the first service. And then he said that his son came up to him and said, "Dad, I really feel like Pastor Nate was speaking to me."
Wow.
And that this dude, his dad had been talking to me about him. This dude said, or his dad had been saying, "Man, like I've been having trouble with this guy at home.
Yeah.
Like, man, he's just causing little things, like, you know, like little fights." And then so for the fact that this guy in the youth group got it, you know what I mean? Like, I think that's really good, just that awareness. So I think, yes, I think when the Lord speaks to your heart, sometimes you don't always know the other end, but we got to trust that God is already working on the other end, that he's preparing the hearts of the people who are going to hear that message.
Yeah, absolutely. What were you most personally burdened to communicate in this message? And the answer can't be that Jocko Willink quote. It can't be that.
Did you like that, bro? That was crazy, right? I didn't even say that. I didn't even mention it.
It's good.
It was good.
Yeah.
So what I felt most burdened to communicate yesterday was, I just wanted our people to know that, man, that we have a real enemy out there.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of times, I think when we don't realize we're in the middle of a war, like worship and the word loses its purpose. You know?
Oh man, John Piper said, not to interrupt you, but I think it's relevant to what you're saying.
Yeah.
And it's just, granted, I think that there's more to it than this. He was talking about how prayer was not for our comforts. It was not for our earthly whatever. Granted, listen,
Sure.
God wants your prayers, all of them, even the like, help me find a parking space
100%.
prayers.
Yeah.
But he was saying that its purpose was a wartime radio to help you obtain what you need for war.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I think.
yeah.
I think that a lot of times that we lose our focus, we lose our fervor.
Sure.
We even lose our unity
Yes.
because we don't realize we're in the middle of a war. Like if you think about it, if you're in a war situation, right? You got bullets flying. Like there's no way I'm gonna look at the dude next to me and be like, "Hey, you offended me."
Right.
You know, like I think
So many things that
no
don't
time.
matter. In
Yeah,
the
you got no
context of
time
war,
for
yeah,
that.
for sure.
But then I will look back though, and I will say, man, thank the Lord that I trained.
Right.
Thank the Lord I was disciplined. Thank the Lord I did all this. And so I think when believers don't think that they have a real enemy, they get lax,
Sure.
and they just go through the motions of the church when
Yeah.
we don't realize, hey, this is a family, but we're also in a family in the middle of a war. And so I think that was anyway, that's the key behind it is I just wanted us to be aware.
Yeah.
Because, man, being aware, number one, again, gives purpose to the word and to worship. But also, number two, it helps breed unity to know that, dude, we have an enemy and it's not us.
Yeah.
You know?
And so, hey, man, you also mentioned, so one of the, you had two Old Testament scriptures that you did not get to put into this.
Right.
I think you only mentioned one of them, which was
Yes.
Genesis 2:3.
Yeah.
Was there another one?
So the other one had to do with actually sin.
Okay.
And like running away from that repentance. And
Yeah.
so I probably mentioned it before, but then the other one that always comes to my mind when I think of repenting of sin is Joseph. Man, Joseph and Potiphar's wife. Because here's the thing, man, is I think we live in a culture that says, not even a culture, I think just human nature, that just says, hey, listen, how close to the line can I get
Sure.
without actually sinning?
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like, oh man, is this really sexual immorality?
Sure.
Is this really slander? I'm throwing it in a prayer request, you know what I mean?
Sin foreplay.
And then, so it's just like, just how close can I get? And like, you know, so when I talked about shutting the doors
Right.
to sin, you know, Joseph came to my mind because man, dude, he was stuck in a position where like it looked like sin was the only way. Right. Potiphar's wife grabbed him. Genesis chapter 39 tells the story of Joseph. And then it says that Potiphar's wife grabbed him and then demanded, come sleep with me. And then it says that she had a hold of his cloak.
Yeah.
And then, one of the things that, man, that I look back on is that, dude, like his cloak was not sin. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like everybody had a cloak.
Right.
Like his cloak wasn't sin, it was needed.
Right.
But then on the other end of that cloak,
Yeah.
sin had a hold of that which was not sin,
Right.
in order to get a hold of him. And then so what did he do? Like he didn't like stay there and try to fight with her. The dude just left the cloak and ran out into the open. And he looked dumb because like he probably was naked.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But he left the cloak because he knew what was on the other side.
Yep.
And I think a lot of times as believers, we hold on to things that we feel like we have a right to. You know what I mean? Like, oh man, I got a right, I got a right to do this. I have a right to drink if I want to drink. I have a right to have a laptop or, my iPhone on me, at 2 a.m. I have a right to do all, you have a right to do all those things. But the mature question isn't, do I have a right? The mature question is where does this lead me?
Does it benefit me?
Does it benefit me? Even Paul says, things are permissible, but not all things are beneficial.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then, so I think if we're going to repent of different things, shut those doors. Sometimes shutting the door isn't just saying, I'm not going to do it again. Man, shutting the door looks like, dude, leaving your freaking cloak, right? Like, listen, it's honestly one of the reasons why, and I love it. I feel so free, but I'm not on social media.
Oh, heck yeah.
Like at all.
Yep.
And then so a lot of people are like, well, Nate, it's a great tool for discipleship. You're a pastor, you should be able to. And I'm like, I think I'm doing okay, man. I think I'm doing all right. But the reason why though is because I knew that early on, man, this could be a temptation.
Oh, for sure.
And so I never touched it. And I look stupid because everybody else has their social media, everybody else has their cloak. And like, they're like, Nate, like, why don't you? And I'm like, because I just don't.
Yeah.
I just don't. And then so I think there are things in our lives that the believer would do well if we would learn to recognize, not is it wrong or right, but if we can ask the question, the measure we have to measure is what's on the other side of that thing that we're so wanting to keep.
Yeah.
And if the answer is sin, get rid of it. Because at the end of the day, if Joseph would have kept his cloak, man, he would have lost his destiny. You know what I'm saying? And then so I feel like that if we can learn to realize what those things are and cut them 3 doors down,
sure,
man, we'd be in so much better position. So, and again, it was one of those things where I'm like, man, I just don't know if we have the time for this, but yeah, it was.
I wish
also
you had.
really
Yeah, I wish you'd gone into that.
Yeah.
Because I wonder, being a youth pastor and dealing with teenage boys, being myself a man, I wonder how many times like the Joseph in us has to succumb to sin before we realize it's better that we're just without a cloak.
Right. Yeah.
Because man, the number of when a student will come and tell me, hey, I'm struggling with this.
Yeah.
And I give them the path. Mm-hmm. Cut this out, do this.
Right.
They'll say, oh, maybe I'll just cut this part out.
Right.
And then a week later,
right.
Hey, I slipped up, man. I gotta. Okay. Well, did you do what I told you to do?
Yeah.
And I try to be as gentle as possible, but it's like months before they get to the reality that they're like, oh, I probably should have just listened in the first place.
Yeah.
We're just really good at believing that we are in control
Right.
of the sin in our, because we like to walk up to that line.
I think my favorite example is when you look at youth and say, hey, listen, I don't know if this is the Lord's will for you to be in this relationship, and then they agree with you. Like, yeah, you're right, for sure. But then, the next thing you're like, they're going on dates. I'm like, okay, maybe. And then 2 months later, it just doesn't work out. Mm-hmm. And they're like, I should have listened. Mm-hmm. Like, just cut it out.
Dude, if you're doing something that has the potential to lead to sin, but you're arguing with yourself that you have the strength to withhold it, the question should never be, do you have the strength to withhold it? It's, why are you tempted to do this thing at all?
Right.
It's much more indicative about what's going on in your heart in the first place. That there's something already in you agreeing with the enemy, that you think that this is a necessary path, or that you don't trust the Lord to provide for you in some way, that you find it necessary to provide for yourself. Yeah. And so,
so true, man.
And this is how, obviously the enemy comes to he gets you to agree with him. You're not realizing you're agreeing with him. You're in denial about being in agreement with him, and then you're in active sin at that
100%.
So.
Yeah, and let me throw in one more phrase in there.
Yeah.
That you hear it all the time.
Yeah.
But then Paul speaks directly to it. Is you hear the phrase, no, I'm okay. My conscience is clear. You know what I mean? My conscience is clear. Hence why I'm doing this.
Right.
Well, bro, Hitler's conscience was clear.
Oh, sweet Jesus.
You know what I'm saying? And then I love that Paul says literally, he says, like, it does not matter that my conscience is clear.
Right.
Because, man, it's deceitful.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You just don't know. And so, I think you examine things against the word of the Lord and against the fruit of it.
Yeah.
What's the fruit? What's the end outcome?
Right.
Not is my conscience clear? No, it's where is it going to lead you? And I think we do ourselves a lot better if we can learn to do that.
Woof.
Yeah.
So, well, last question for you, man. The response yesterday was awesome. I had quite a few people, I think, who just realized there is an active enemy in my life.
100%.
I've been in agreement with him.
Yeah.
I've been in denial about it. And now I need to figure out how to start fighting this battle. And so, man, talk to me about the outcome from yesterday and the people that responded and just your general vibe and advice for them.
I think there was a lot of people that responded. I mean, I think we had like 2 or 3 respond to the call for salvation, but I think we had a lot of people respond, man, like, I realize I've been giving room to the enemy.
Yeah.
And man, Nate, count me in, man. I want to see not his dominion, but I want to see the glory of God over Chambersburg, over Franklin County.
Right.
And then because, man, I hate what you guys know, the local news. Man, the local news, a lot of crazy stuff has been happening. And then we used to think, like, dude, like, this was in the big cities. It's happening here, right?
Yeah.
And I think oftentimes, like, everybody, because we're a smaller community, we start pointing the fingers to each other.
Yeah.
Oh, man, I wonder I wonder what she, man, I wonder what's going on in that. Guys, yes, it's natural, but also it's spiritual. And then so I think the call to arms, I think was like recognizing we have an enemy. And then, man, like, along with that, just making sure that we're pointing then our prayers in that direction. Number one, stay steadfast, because the enemy's going to want to tempt you and poke once you kick him out, right? Jesus gives this example, and he tells a story of, like, whenever the spirits leave, they go to drier places looking for a place to inhabit.
Right.
That whenever we close the door to the enemy in our lives, he'll leave, but then he'll want to come back. And then, so I think number one, standing strong in the grace of God. So keep standing strong, man. Keep pursuing the Lord like never before. But also number two, man, realize that we have a part to play in conquering and pushing back against the enemy.
Yeah.
And then so spending time in the Lord's presence, number one, and then as we spend time in his presence and we spend time in his word, then as his word gets into us, then declaring those words over our family,
right.
Declaring those words over our city, declaring those words over my marriage. You know what I mean? It's one thing to say, all right, I have a real enemy, and it's not you, it's the devil. But it's another thing to say, I'm going to lean into the presence of God.
Yeah.
And I'm going to get his heart for us. And then once I get that heart, I'm going to declare it over us. So this is, man, by the grace of God, this is the best marriage, man, this is the marriage that's going to glorify the Lord. Declaring things over our family. Man, you know what? The devil thought he had us, but I'm declaring over our family that every single one of us, we're going to come to salvation, and love is going to be here. Man, the fruits of the Spirit, love and joy and peace and patience. I'm declaring those things over our family. So I think I would urge us to, yes, shut those doors, but lean into the presence of God.
Right.
So you can start declaring, man, just the will of God over the region, over our families, over your marriages, over this place. So that's what I would urge our people to do, man. And hopefully we'll see, not hopefully, but by the grace of God, we'll see the kingdom come.
That's a good word, man.
Yeah, man.
The enemy will try to get you to deny, and the Lord is calling you to declare his goodness.
Let's go.
So, hey, thanks so much for joining us on this week's episode of The Leftovers. We're looking forward to seeing you guys next week, and take it easy.
Yeah.